Hey YouTubers, this is actually a response video from my little brother. And when I say little, I use that figuratively because he's actually taller than I am. But he's in the market for an AR platform rifle. He lives in the Illinois Soviet Socialist Republic, but he is obviously allowed to buy a rifle like this with certain restrictions. He does not live in the city of Chicago, so he's not that restricted. But anyway, he had a question regarding direct impingement versus gas piston. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, this is not a gas piston versus direct impingement. I'm not going to get into that argument. I'm just going to tell you the difference between the two systems. So let's start with the direct impingement because I've got an AR rifle here. Standard AR platform or M16 platform rifles are direct impingement. And what that is this. When you fire Mr. Bullet down Mr. Barrel... Okay, that's enough of that. When you fire a round down the barrel... Okay, this front sight is not just a front sight. No, 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 gentle viewers. It is a multi-purpose, multi-function apparatus in that it also serves as a gas block. No jokes, please, about blocking gas. But anyway, it diverts gas down this tube, which travels down the long axis of the rifle, down that nice, pretty, silvery tube down there, and continues into the receiver area where it meets Mr. Bolt Carrier. And this piece on top is what they call the gas key. Okay, if you notice, if you look, it's hollow because that gas tube kind of, meets up with that, fills that gas tube very quickly, propels the bolt backward where it ejects the spent casing, buffer tube and spring propel the bolt carrier back forward, chambering another round, getting it ready to fire again. Simple, right? Well, it is. The main complaint, though, is that all the gas that doesn't, after this little tiny gas key is filled, the rest of it goes into the receiver. A lot of hot gas, carbon, unburned powder, whatever can go travel down the gas tube is also sent into the receiver, making it run hotter and things of that nature. All right, fouling up the works more. All right, which technically is true. But that's how direct impingement works. Direct impingement. All right, let's go to the gas piston system. I don't have a gas piston AR, not because I don't want to, I just, don't have the money, and I just don't. All right. Then you have basically one of the best known examples of gas piston is the AK style rifle or an AKM style rifle. Okay, I've taken the cover off, taken the recoil spring out. Now, basically what happens again is this. A round is fired down the barrel and the gas is diverted into this area here. See the holes here? I don't know if you can see the piston itself in there, but actually I'm going to take the piston out. Okay, which of course pushes the piston back. This is the gas piston. Yes, it's dirty. Yeah. I got to clean a rifle. All right. Okay. The bolt, carrier, everything like that, does the same thing. Chambers, unchambers, all that other good stuff. And then does its thing. Does its AK thing. Okay. So that is a gas piston, basically, rifle. The reason for these holes here is to vent the excess gas. That's right. Any gas that is not used to propel the bolt backwards is actually vented outside the rifle. And none of it actually enters the receiver. So that is how a gas piston works. Now, about 4, maybe 5 years ago, somebody helped me out there, they started making gas piston AR uppers, or gas piston operated AR systems. What people saw as shortcomings of the direct impingement system, they wanted to solve those. All right, let's kind of look at both as far as the pros and cons between the two, because the gas piston isn't just all superior to the direct impingement as some people believe, nor is the direct impingement all superior to the gas piston as a lot of people believe. All right, so let's go one by one. Let's start with the direct impingement because it's there. All right, one, you can free float the barrels. All right, well, you can free float them more than you can the gas piston gas piston style systems, which of course means you can add more accessories, you can actually accurize the rifle more. Things of that nature. Okay, other thing is it's simple construction. It's inexpensive, there's nothing to wear, nothing to foul or corrode because it's just a tube that sends gas down into the bolt carrier. All right, there's no moving parts as far as the gas system itself. It's a lighter weight system, okay, because it's just the tube, the gas block in the tube. And probably one of the biggest thing is that the AR system as a DI weapon is a standardized rifle. In other words, the parts from one rifle have to fit into another rifle, even from a different manufacturer, as far as military specifications are concerned, which ARs are mil-spec rifles. Okay, so the parts are everywhere. You can get them in a myriad of different places, very competitive pricing, which helps the cheapness, I guess you want to call it. It's a very standard part. Okay, so I mean, those are some of the pros of the direct impingement. The cons is that it tends to be a little more sensitive to ammunition types and, you know, manufacturers. I haven't had a problem. I've shot about 3 or 4 different ammo manufacturers, including my reloaded ammunition, and I have not had one failure. No failures to eject, no failures to feed, no failures to do anything. I pull the trigger, it's gone bang if there's a round in the chamber. Okay, and I've used different magazines. I've used these P-mags, which are great, by the way. I've also used military surplus mags, C product mags. You name it, I've probably tried it in this rifle, and I've never had a problem. Okay, so I don't know exactly how various you have to get with your ammunition. It might have to do with powder charges and things of that nature, which, by the way, was one of the contributing factors to the rifles in Vietnam failing, was that the cyclic rate of the type of ammo they were using at first was causing the rifles to cycle too fast. So they say, and or cycle at the wrong rate. Anyway, that's beside the point. Also, the other con is, as I'd mentioned before, is that all the gas ends up in the receiver area, causing it to run hotter. They say, you know, causing more chance for fouling and things of that nature. Dirt, carbon buildup getting, you know, built up in the receiver. So those are your main pros and cons. There's probably more, yeah, but I'm not going to get into those. Now, your gas piston pros. Of course, the spent gas is vented outside of the rifle. All right, and the vent holes, as I showed you in the AK variant. So none of the gases actually ever enter the receiver. I mean, if there are, it's probably minuscule. Also, the gas piston system seems to be more tolerant to different types of ammo. So it'll probably gobble up, theoretically or technically gobble up more different types of ammunition than a DI system will. Some of the cons is that you can't free float the barrel, at least not as much as you can in the DI system. Right? You just can't because of the way it's configured. It's also, of course, a heavier system because there's more moving parts. It's just a larger operating system. It is more complex because you have more moving parts. There are more components, you know, to kind of get messed up, whether you're fouling them, wearing out, or whatever. And of course, it's a much more costly system. On average, I'm seeing about what between $2,000 and $400 more for a similarly equipped rifle. All right, so, you know, all the features being equal, if I were to buy this with a gas piston, it'd be between $200 and $400 more. The other thing to keep in mind is that none of the gas piston systems are standardized. In other words, it's not a mil-spec system. It's not. So if you go with an HK system, if something breaks or you want to, you know, get a different part for it or something like that, you have to stick with the HK. In other words, you can't go to a SIG or a Ruger or anything else and use any parts from their gas piston system. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, you know, because I mean, if you buy an HK, you go to HK, you know the parts are going to work. All right, but you know that's just something to keep in mind. You can't just go to any gas piston, you know, part store, as it were, and replace the parts that way. It's just not done. Another thing to keep in mind is that, or what I heard or what I've read on the forums and things, is that the DI system works better for longer barreled rifles, like the 16, 18, 20, you know, 24 inch, that kind of thing, and the shorter, like the 11.5 or whatever, 14 inch. The gas piston system tends to be better in those short barreled rifles or shorter barreled rifles. Whether it's true, I can't do a comparison, obviously, because I don't have a gas piston one or anything like that. But, you know, really, what it boils down to is this. You know, if you're going to fire a lot of rounds per session, or if you're going to go full auto, gas piston is probably a better way to go. If you're like me, you're a casual shooter, you know, maybe a few magazines, you know, 100 rounds or so, maybe 200 rounds, you know, the DI system is going to do just fine for you. I mean, you're not going to have excessive problems with malfunctions or wear or fouling or anything like that. Like I said, I haven't had one issue with this. I probably had about 600-700 rounds through it. Well, probably not quite that many, probably 500 or 600 rounds through it. Not a single malfunction. I've only cleaned it like 3 times. All right, so if you're gonna be a heavy shooter, the gas piston makes more sense. If you're gonna be a recreational shooter like me, you know, just stick with the DI. If you're tossed up between the two, this is what I suggest. Go ahead and either build a rifle or buy a rifle with a DI. Okay, especially if you're budget minded. All right, then later on what you can do is buy a gas piston upper for I don't know, $600 or so, maybe $700 on the outside. Like I said, they're more expensive. And then it'll fit right on your same lower. Because like I said, those are mil-spec parts. The piston system itself is not mil-spec, but the upper is. Okay, so that is also another idea that you can try. Well, Greg, if you're listening, if you actually watched to the end of this video, which, I don't know, I probably bored you also, I hope that answers your question. If you have any others, please feel free to let me know. Give me a call, bro. I mean, come on. I'm your brother. You don't call, you don't write, you just email me. And you ask me questions like this. Come on, where's the love? All right, thanks everybody for watching. I hope it's helped. Take care.